This is Akashwani. We bring to you a literary talk titled Power and Obsession. A review by M.RAJA RAJESHWARI on Robert Browning's My Last Duchess.
Robert Browning's My Last Duchess is a masterpiece of dramatic monologue, showcasing the poet's skillful employment of literary devices to craft a complex and thought-provoking narrative. This poem, first published in 1842, has been widely anthologized and studied for its innovative use of language, form, and literary devices. This review will analyze the usage of various literary devices in My Last Duchess, including imagery, symbolism, irony, and dramatic monologue, to demonstrate how Browning's masterful employment of these devices contributes to the poem's enduring power and complexity. Browning's use of imagery and symbolism is a hallmark of his poetry, and My Last Duchess is no exception. The poem's opening lines, "That's my last duchess painted on the wall, looking as if she were alive," introduce the central image of the Duchess portrait, which serves as a symbol of the Duke's possessiveness and control. The portrait, painted on the wall, is a static image frozen in time, much like the Duchess herself, who is trapped in the Duke's memory. The image of the portrait also serves as a symbol of the Duke's artistic taste and refinement. The fact that the portrait is painted on the wall suggests a sense of permanence and grandeur, underscoring the Duke's aristocratic status. However, this image also hints at the Duke's darker nature, as he reveals his obsessive control over the Duchess' image and his desire to freeze her in time. Browning's use of irony and tone is another notable feature of My Last Duchess. The poem's speaker, the Duke, is a master of irony, using it to conceal his true nature and intentions. For example, when the Duke says, "I gave commands," then all smiles stop together. He is being ironic, as he is revealing his cruel and controlling behavior while pretending to be a benevolent and a loving husband. The tone of the poem is also noteworthy, as it shifts from a sense of refinement and culture to one of menace and control. The Duke's tone is initially polite and courteous, but as the poem progresses, it becomes increasingly sinister and menacing. This shift in tone underscores the Duke's darker nature and serves as a warning to the reader about the dangers of his obsessive and controlling behavior. The dramatic monologue is a literary device that Browning employs to a great effect in My Last Duchess. The poem's speaker, the Duke, is a complex and nuanced character, and the dramatic monologue allows the reader to experience the poem from his unique perspective. The dramatic monologue also serves to create a sense of intimacy and immediacy, drawing the reader into the Duke's world and forcing them to confront his darker nature. The fact that the Duke is speaking directly to the reader, or rather to the emissary of the Count, creates a sense of complicity and involvement, underscoring the reader's role as a witness to the Duke's confession. Browning's use of psychological insight is another notable feature of My Last Duchess. The poem offers a profound exploration of the Duke's psyche, revealing his obsessive and controlling nature. The Duke's fixation on the Duchess' portrait, his desire to freeze her in time, and his cruel treatment of her all serve to underscore his psychological complexity. The poem also offers insight into the psychological dynamics of the Duke's relationship with the Duchess. The fact that the Duke is obsessed with the Duchess' portrait rather than the living woman herself suggests a deep-seated insecurity and a fear of loss. This psychological insight serves to humanize the Duke, making him a more complex and nuanced character. The poem begins with the name Ferrara, which is a city in northern Italy. This sets the scene for the poem, which is likely set in the 16th century during the Italian Renaissance. The speaker, the Duke, is showing someone, likely an emissary from a potential bride's family, a painting of his late wife, the Duchess. The phrase, "my last Duchess," is significant as it implies that the Duke has had multiple wives. The Duke comments on the lifelike quality of the painting, which is so realistic that it seems as if the Duchess is about to speak. The phrase, "I call," is a causal, almost offhand remark which contrasts with the formal tone of the rest of the poem. The Duke attributes the painting's beauty to the skill of the artist, Fra Pandolf. The use of the artist's name adds a sense of authenticity to the poem. The Duke comments on the speed and skill with which Pandolf worked, implying that the artist was able to capture the Duchess' likeliness in a remarkably short time. The phrase, "there she stands," is significant as it emphasizes the Duchess' presence even in death. The Duke invites the emissary to sit and admire the painting, using the phrase, "will it please you?" to convey a sense of courtesy and politeness. The use of phrase, "I said," adds a sense of informality to the poem. The Duke explains that he mentions Pandolf's name deliberately as he knows that the emissary will not have heard of the artist. This line adds to the sense of Duke's arrogance and superiority. The Duke implies that the emissary is not familiar with the Duchess' appearance and that the painting is the only way to know what she looked like. The phrase, "pictured countenance," is significant as it emphasizes the idea that the Duchess' appearance is frozen in time. The Duke comments on the intensity and sincerity of Duchess' gaze, as captured in the painting. The phrase, "earnest glance," is significant as it suggests that the Duchess was a serious and passionate person. The Duke explains that the Duchess' eyes seem to turn towards him, even though she is dead. The phrase, "since none puts by," is significant as it suggests that the Duke is the only one who truly understands the Duchess. The Duke explains that he has drawn back the curtain to reveal the painting, but that he is the only one who truly sees the Duchess. The use of phrase, "but I," adds a sense of intimacy and possession to the poem. The Duke comments on the Duchess' behavior, implying that she was too free with her thanks and praise. The phrase, "somehow," is significant as it suggests that the Duchess' behavior was not quite right. The Duke explains that the Duchess seemed to place herself on an equal footing with others, rather than recognizing her own superior status. The phrase, "I know not how," adds a sense of puzzlement and disapproval to the poem. The Duke comments on the fact that he gave the Duchess a noble and ancient name, implying that she did not appreciate the value of this gift. The phrase, 900 years old name, is significant as it emphasizes the Duke's own noble heritage. The Duke implies that the Duchess did not recognize the value of his gift and that she was too free with her praise and thanks. The phrase, "who would stop to blame," is significant as it suggests that the Duke is too proud to blame the Duchess directly. The Duke suggests, even if the emissary had the skill to express himself eloquently, he would not be able to convey the Duke's wishes effectively. In line 18, "quite clear to such an one," and say, "just this," the Duke implies that he wants someone who can clearly convey his wishes and say exactly what he wants to say. In line 19, "or that in you disgusts me, here you miss," the Duke explains that the emissary is missing the point and that there is something about him that disgusts the Duke. The Duke suggests that the Duchess exceeded the bounds of what was acceptable and that she allowed herself to be too familiar with others. the Duke implies that the Duchess did not take criticism or correction well, and that she was not willing to learn from others. He also suggests that she made excuses for not being as intelligent or witty as others, or that she tried to justify her own shortcomings. He also implies that even if the Duchess had acknowledged her own shortcomings, it would have required some humility on her part, and that he prefers not to have to deal with such issues. He also recalls that the Duchess smiled at others, and that she was too free with her smiles and favours. In line 25, "Whenever I passed her, but who passed without?" the Duke implies that the Duchess smiled at anyone who passed her without being selective or discerning. He also explains that the Duchess' behaviour grew more and more annoying, and that he eventually gave orders to correct the situation. And now the Duchess' smiles stopped abruptly, and that she now stands frozen in the painting. He invites the emissary to rise and leave, implying that the audience is at an end. The Duke repeats his invitation and implies that the emissary should join the company downstairs. The Duke mentions the Count's generosity and liberality, implying that the emissary's master is a wealthy and noble patron. He also suggests that the Count's generosity is a guarantee that the Duke's own behaviour is justified. He also recalls that he had previously stated his intention to marry the Count's daughter. His intention to marry the Count's daughter was his primary goal from the start, and that he is now ready to move forward with the arrangement. The poem ends with the Duke's confident and assertive tone, implying that he is in his control of the situation and that his wishes will be respected. In conclusion, Robert Browning's My Last Duchess is a masterpiece of dramatic monologue, showcasing the poet's skillful employment of literary devices to craft a complex and thought-provoking narrative. The poem's use of imagery, symbolism, irony, tone, and dramatic monologue all serve to create a rich and nuanced exploration of the Duke's psyche and his relationship with the Duchess. Through its masterful employment of literary devices, My Last Duchess offers a profound exploration of the human condition, revealing the complexities and nuances of human psychology. This poem continues to be widely studied and admired for its innovative use of language and form, and its enduring power to captivate and disturb readers. Robert Browning was a renowned English poet, playwright, and a translator of the Victorian era. Born in Camberwell, London, Browning was the son of a banker and developed a passion for literature from an early age. He was largely self-educated, drawing inspiration from the works of William Shakespeare, John Milton, and Percy Shelley. Browning's poetic career spanned over 5 decades, during which he experimented with various forms, styles, and themes. His early works, such as Pauline, Paracelsus, showcased his romantic and philosophical leanings. However, it was his dramatic monologues, particularly My Last Duchess and The Piped Piper of Hamelin, that cemented his reputation as a masterful poet. Throughout his life, Browning was known for his intense and passionate relationships, including his marriage to fellow poet Elizabeth Barrett Browning. His poetry often explored themes of love, morality, and the human condition, earning him a devoted following among the Victorian readers. Today, Robert Browning remains as one of the most celebrated and studied poets of the Victorian era.
You just heard to a literary talk, Power and Obsession. A review on Robert Browning's My Last Duchess. This program came to you from the studios of Akashvani, Chennai.